Welcome to my review of Shingeki no Kyojin Chapter 110. Apologies for skipping the previous chapter. I had thought about making one, but I realized I would just end up repeating myself a lot from what I had already said in my previous video. Things kind of just went as expected. I did like how Gabby took up the pike and just so casually and tried to stab the girl that Sasha found. Like, yeah, I'm done with this shit. Time to stab a bitch. The series has nice doses of dark humor in it. Not really lighting up the mood or anything, but just pointing out how crazy things are. Chapter 110 begins with Zeke divulging info about how he turned the Rakugo villagers into titans. There was earlier speculation about maybe him poisoning the well, but that didn't really make sense to me because not everybody's going to drink water from the well simultaneously. So the villagers would notice that people were collapsing after drinking the water and probably contact the authorities. Apparently, Zeke used a bunch of canisters to spread gas all over the village, and if an Eldian even gets a whiff of that gas containing Zeke's spinal fluid, they would lose control of their bodies, becoming unconscious. Apparently, it has to be Zeke's spinal fluid, because he's got royal blood, I guess. What's interesting here is the Titan mechanics being explained. Apparently, Titan spinal fluid acts like a transponder for Titan power to be sent to. Zeke can then give him a command, even in his human form, because he has the Beast Titan inside of him, which is connected to those coordinates. Levi kind of accuses Zeke of faking his remorse for turning Rakugo Village into Titans, seeing as how he didn't even bother to remember the name of the village. And Zeke is like, why are you grilling me on this, bro? I had to do what I had to do to get Marley to believe in me. Don't act like you know me, bro. A judgmental prick like you must not be very popular with the ladies. To which Levi responds kind of awkwardly. He's like, yeah, I know, I had sex before. ... Zeke then uses the opportunity to break the awkward tension. He's like, well, anyways, when do I start my experience with Eren? Levi and Zeke then both agree on that time is of the essence. Next, we have Yelena and Pictus conversing on a balcony outdoors. Remember how in the previous chapter, Yelena was complaining about how she couldn't enjoy the view because the windows were barred up. Commander Pixis, being the smooth womanizer that he is, obviously remedied this dissatisfaction to try and coax Yelena into spilling the beans about what happened with Eren. Yelena apologizes and decides to come clean to Pixis' surprise. She explains that she met with Eren alone to keep the Marleyan volunteers from falling into distrust. With the Waldian government, I'm assuming, as them meeting with Eren would have put their motives under suspicion. This way only Yelena herself would be blamed. Pixis then asks assertively if Yelena was able to manipulate Eren into doing Zeke's bidding. Yelena then denies it vehemently, explaining that she just wants Eren-senpai to notice her, although I'm pretty sure she's older than Eren. We then see Pixis sitting in his chair with his arms crossed, not really buying any of it. We then see him giving a look to his second-in-command. Yelena realizes this and decides to be a little bit more forthright about what she thinks. We get to see more of Yelena's cult member side here as she praises Eren effusively, hoping that one day he'll step up and lead the charge along with Zeke to establish a new world order. Although I think she might just have a thing for guys who are capable of large-scale destruction, especially against Marley. Some kind of vengeful backstory there, probably. Pixis shows his disappointment in all of this, complaining that Yelena was too nondescript and unsubstantive in her explanations, with Yelena looking on a little bit wide-eyed, fearing what might come next. While this is all happening, Hanji is meeting up with Oyakupon, inquiring what he knew about Yelena's plans to meet up with Eren, secretly. To Hanji's surprise, it seems like he really didn't know anything. I'm going to guess that Hanji probably suspected this based on Eren leaving the island 10 months ago. I know the previous chapter's translation said more unauthorized actions, but the actual Japanese translation should be Eren took independent actions, singular. It really seems like Hanji was only suspecting it, as she asks again, do you really think she could have done it? What Hanji found out from Oyakupon was Yelena's sudden course corrections regarding her actions towards Marleyans. Her new sympathy displayed towards Marleyans on Paradise Island being contradictory to her previous actions on Marley. It seems like Hanji has figured something out as she proceeds to mobilize Me personally, I think the reason Yelena wants to keep the Marley soldiers alive, while also having them retain a certain level of working privilege, granting them access to locations on Paradise Island, is because she obviously has hidden operatives embedded within those workers, such as Nicola, who was listening in on the military police's plans for her. She gave up Flock as a name to explain how she was able to set up the meeting with Eren, but not Niccolo or any of the other embedded soldiers. I wonder what else she could have planned for them. We see Armin here trying to awkwardly caress Annie in her crystal, an obvious sign of affection. You have to wonder how this came about exactly. Didn't Annie kill a bunch of Armin's allies? Why is he suddenly so forgiving towards Annie, but then up in arms about what Eren did? Does being an attractive female mean that you can get away with anything? Hitch just happened to have been dropping by, catching Armin in the act of awkwardly trying to caress Annie's crystal. Kind of like how Hanji caught Eren talking to himself in the mirror. But unlike Eren, who was able to maintain his calm and composure, Armin really freaked out here, making up a sorry excuse about how he was just trying to test out some Titan mechanics. Hitch also seems to have inexplicably forgiven Annie for the massive amounts of destruction she caused in the Stohis district, even though she complained about it vehemently to Levi back in the Uprising arc, detailing the hundreds of bodies they had to carry. I guess she's just Lesbo for Annie now? I do like how the meta humor in this series comes off naturally within the framework of the scene and doesn't feel contrived. Armin and Mikasa are finally granted an audience of Zackley so they can request permission to talk to Eren and find out exactly what his motives are. It does feel like the scouts are being kept out in the dark on purpose for a lot of things, as you would figure that inviting Eren's childhood friends to talk to him and get answers would be a priority. Instead, they are bent on replacing Eren under the narrative that he is being controlled by Zeke and therefore can no longer be trusted. Even Hanji had to get exclusive permission from Zackley to talk to one of the volunteer soldiers, who they were just in Marley with, while Pixis got to interview Yelena directly. This strengthens my assertion earlier that the Scout Legion is mostly being kept in the dark, as they didn't even know the volunteer soldiers were being placed in lockdown, and that they certainly should have no idea that the military police had a backstabbing plan of forcing Historia to Titanize and eat Eren immediately upon his arrival on Paradise Island, which is something they would never go for, and I think Zackley and the other branches of the Paradise military realizes, which is why the Scouting Legion is being kept in the dark, and thus probably don't even know that Historia is pregnant. Zackley sounding rather dismissive about the importance of Hanji's mission, describing it as her running around as usual, and seeming rather forgetful that he even permitted her to do so, suggesting that his mind right now is on a much bigger agenda, like replacing Eren and then testing out the rumbling. When Mikasa asks Zackley what will happen to Eren, Zackley humorously looks towards his ship machine, which now looks almost like a normal chair with a bunch of belts on it, and Mikasa responding by asking, "What is that?" You have to consider that Zackley must really hate Eren now to be even considering that. This is another piece of dark humor that's pulled off rather well by the series within the framework of the narrative. Mikasa seems to have caught on a bit, not trusting Zackley, as she prepares to head back to eavesdrop on Zackley's next meeting with his 3 officers, which probably would have revealed their not-so-amicable plans for Eren. And this is why you don't mix business with pleasure. Boom goes the explosion. It really does seem like the Ackermans have some kind of precog ability, explaining how they know exactly what to do in combat situations. The cult-like response from the protesters outside, seeing Zackley's blown-up body, is quite concerning, not even showing the slightest bit of shock from someone just being killed, even acting like they deserved it. The Waldian citizens have been riled up by the newspaper press's headline story of Eren being unjustly imprisoned, as can be observed in Hitch's newspaper she was holding. Not to mention, Eren leading the Scouting Legion to a remarkable victory over Marley has really emboldened the public's appetite for war. It makes sense that the public would rather put their belief in someone who took decisive action like Eren over what seems to be an overly cautious government, especially on the heels of such a great victory, with many feeling the need to capitalize on it by taking decisive follow-up actions with a sense of urgency. Let's see how this turns out. As often the case in Attack on Titan, chasing after some overly simplistic solution like making Eren the savior figure can backfire very hard on you. But at least for now, Eren is what he strove to be from the beginning when he found out about his Titan powers. A symbol of hope for all of humanity, or rather, Waldians now. Finally, Eren escapes from prison like he said he would. I don't know why they didn't take other precautions. Seems kinda ridiculous. Eren goes to meet up with his followers. It seems like exactly getting blown up isn't part of Eren's intentions, and it was just some independent action taken by one of Eren's followers, acting as a prison guard. Eren didn't really seem to mind though, casually dressing himself as he walks towards the sunrise. I don't know why no one got him any shoes though, unless this is supposed to be some kind of religious allegory. If you're still not convinced that Eren isn't the dad of Historia's baby, then you might want to consider why doesn't Eren ask anyone, how's the queen doing? It's not like it would cost him anything. The chapter ends with the reveal that Piek has already infiltrated Paradise Island. An interesting development, but before that, we see Armin trying to comfort a mentally disoriented Mikasa, as it seems like she's seen her world turned upside down. Some of you might have concluded that Eren has gone off on the deep end, but I assure you that's not actually true. If you look back on chapter 105, you can clearly tell that Eren still cares deeply about his friends. Unless you're as dense as Connie, of course. Mikasa and Armin should know better, although it does seem like Armin still believes in Eren. Well, that took a lot more effort to make than I expected to. These Attack on Titan chapters are getting more and more complicated, not just because of all the tiny bits of information, but all of the nuance and intricacies surrounding them. But if you enjoyed my review and analysis, do hit that like button and give my video a boost. I'll probably come up with more content later, so look forward to that. Bye.